Naked and Afraid XL Season 10 Episode 2 Review. I know that I'm a little behind on the episodes for the season, but it is my goal to post one review every day this week until I'm caught up with the new episodes. But for this review, I'll share my thoughts on the remaining teams and rank them from the strongest to the weakest. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. In my last review, I had Sam, Adam, and Heather as the strongest team heading into the challenge, and this episode remains the same. When we first see this team, they're discussing the need to have a substantial source of food in order to complete the 40 miles in 40 days. But in order to catch that source of food, the team would need to venture away from the camp, which is definitely a risk. And that particular risk definitely paid off, because Adam, with the help of Heather, were able to catch a decent-sized caiman, which produced about 40 pounds of meat. The downside to taking this sort of gamble was that the team had to travel over 2 miles to catch this caiman. Because the surrounding area was so wet, they had to carry the caiman 2+ miles back to camp, which nearly made Sam pass out from the heat stroke. In addition to that, Sam also got stung several times by executioner wasps while traveling with the group to the new lands, and there was a little bit of a conflict between him and Heather when he voiced concerns that the group shouldn't overexert themselves while going on the adventure. I guess that I saw it both ways, because the caiman that they caught was able to produce enough meat for the next few days, but having to haul it back to camp in the dead heat was complete madness to me. In ideal conditions, the team should have started a temporary shelter in the new area, processed the caiman there, cooked it, rested before having one or two of them head back to camp, so that they can make their eventual migration there. Indeed, it's ideal, but in my opinion, this team will likely travel more than 40 miles during their 40-day period, if they make it to the end. Nevertheless, with this protein source and Adam's idea of repurposing the caiman skin to make shoes, I don't see any obstacles to stop this team. The next strongest team I saw in this episode, and this will be a shocker to some people, will be Kayla's team of one. With Kayla's partners leaving her high and dry in episode 1, I was all but certain that Kayla would tap out pretty early in the challenge. But Kayla overcame all obstacles, and just when all hope was lost for her, she was able to catch a decent-sized fish and eat it. Which was significant, because if she had other team members with her, she would have had to share that fish with them. Now I consider Kayla's team of one to be the next strongest team, because she has to hunt, get firewood, and repair her shelter all by herself. Now I know that at some point, Kayla's going to meet with one of the other teams, but I believe that her determination will power her all the way to the remainder of the challenge. The next team that had some strength but could use some improvements was the team of Chris, Shell, and Mallory. Now I think it's important to point out the obvious here. Chris had a pretty rough time during his time on the episode. He had a tick that had to be burned off of his leg, and he had scores of bug bites on him that caused him to get sick and need medical attention. But this group persevered, and Mallory was able to lift the group's spirits by catching 6 fish for the group. Even with all the progress that the group made, Chris decided to tap out because he didn't feel well. Now I can't tell anybody how they should or shouldn't feel, but with 2 different medics checking on Chris and telling him that there was nothing medically wrong with him, part of me is wondering if the lack of food and the problem with the bugs somewhat helped him make the decision to tap out. Who knows? I just wish that the production would have shed some light on why Chris had to tap out, like they did with the cast members on Naked and Afraid Castaways. Nevertheless, I think that the dynamics on this team were pretty strong, and I think that Shell and Mallory will try their hardest to make it through the remainder of the challenge. And lastly, the team that gave me the most concern for this episode was Tara, Nathan, and Lindsay. Now individually, these survivalists have a pretty impressive Naked and Afraid resume, and they can definitely hold their own in survival situations. But for this episode, the team simply wasn't on the same page from start to finish. At least not from how the episode was edited and presented to the viewing audience. And when I say the team wasn't on the same page, it was mainly the disconnect between Nathan and the other team members. Nathan, who I hailed as the true MVP of the team, had barriers in communication with Tara and Lindsay, so much that Tara and Lindsay had felt that Nathan was intentionally being disrespectful towards them. We later learned that Nathan has Asperger's, and it impacts his ability to communicate with others. I think that after finding this info out, Tara and Lindsay did an okay job with meeting Nathan where he was, but with Nathan being the strongest member of the team, I wish that Tara and Lindsay would have did a little bit better at following Nathan's lead or trying to do more to meet him where he was. This comes back to bite the team when Tara and Lindsay decide that it was a good idea to migrate to other parts of the area, while Nathan voiced that it was a big risk. Nathan went along with what Lindsay and Tara wanted, but the episode ends with Tara nearly passing out due to heat exhaustion, and if Tara taps out, then I wouldn't be surprised. And this is because of the injury that hadn't fully healed from the previous episode. But going forward, if Tara has to tap out, then I don't see Nathan and Lindsay making it through the remainder of the challenge together, unless Nathan and Lindsay meet another group of people. But this marks the end of the review. Feel free to leave all comments below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.